Okay, so let's hash out at least one of these widgets, right? Just to give you an idea of how would you would go about, this creating an editor for one of these at least. Right. So let's take a look at the heading, at the heading widget. All right, so let's go in the heading widget, and so there's two things that we like to capture here, right? The size of the heading, right, and also the text of the heading, right? So let's work with size first, right? This heading size, and so we would need to capture that the value of that select element, the value, right, and then store it in a state, right, for that particular widget. So to do that, we're going to have to refer to the select element, right, so that we can look at the value of the select element. Right, so let's see. To do that, we can use the ref attribute so that we can refer to the native DOM elements, right, and actually grab the value of the select elements. Right, so we can here we can refer to this. This will give us access to the low-level node, and we're going to store it in a local variable called select element node. Okay. So we'll need to declare a local variable. We'll call it select element. Right. Notice that it's complaining because notice that I have parentheses. The way I declared this as a component, and so it's expecting just a return, right? But because we have a statement here, this is no longer just a return. It's it's several steps, right? So I need to convert this into an actual function. Right, that has at least two steps. Oops. What did it do? I think I need a return somewhere here. Broke my. Go away. You gonna type that? Go away. What did I do? What did my IDE think I was doing? All right, this is my component returning that. Very good. Okay, so I have access to that element, right, in a local object, and then I need to notify the reducer that this value has changed, right, so that we can change the state for this particular widget. Okay. Notice that these components will never ever control their own state. Right? They always have to notify somebody else. Right? We have delegated the state management to someone else. Do not try to finagle somehow into remembering anything here. Okay? Yes.
Can we maintain a form which maintains its own state and then pass it to the dispatcher?
Oh, I'm sorry. Say again.
Like we maintain a form for this entire object.
Okay.
It will maintain its internal state, the values and all, and then pass that state to the dispatcher, which will then render.
Okay. All right. So you have your small little state for if you have multiple fields, for instance. Yeah, that's a good idea, right? Where you grab an entire JSON object and don't bother the reducer with every little bit of state changes. Yes. Yeah. Right. It depends on the granularity that you want to do this. Right? Yeah. Good idea. All right, so let's. But I'm going to drill into you the fact that it should not maintain its own state, right? That we're going to always have the reducer, right, handle its own state, especially if you want to be able to like refresh these or re-render these things, and it having been able to remember where it was before, right? You need all the bits and pieces between where you were before the previous state and any of those changes, right? Ideally, you would be encoding all the state in the URL, right? Any information that you need in the URL, so that if you ever need to refresh, right, the URL will have enough information that you can reconstruct the user interface from the URL alone. But here, it is not worth doing a particular just input field or a dropdown.
If there are many fields, then maintaining many ref would be
Yeah.
because we need to
Yes.
ref
Exactly. Yeah. Right. You could use the state internally to maintain all that. Yep. Yep. All right. So let's select these. So let's notify the reducer that something has happened. So on change, we're going to notify the reducer by calling a function on this, and we'll say heading size changed. Okay, and that's going to be provided to us as a property. We'll need to do a mapping, right, and provide this. Now notice that when this changes, it's our size that changed, right? You might have multiple headings, so and each heading will have different sizes. Right? So you'll need to provide also which heading changed, right? And what did it change to? What's the value that changed? So we need to encode that somewhere. We need to provide that as an argument, right? That it's this particular widget that's changed, and the size. And the size would be the select element and then the value, right? So what we're going to do is that on change, we're going to call this function and pass that as an argument. Pass those things as arguments. Now this function doesn't exist yet, so somehow we need to pass it in as a property. So let's pass it in. We'll need to connect the heading, right? By saying, let's see, we'll do a const heading container with a connect, and we want to connect the heading. Now it's connected, but we need to map it. We need to tell it where's this function that I'm passing it, right? And for that, we'll need to create a little mapper. So we'll create a const dispatch to props mapper that's going to return an object whose heading size changed, right? It's going to be mapped to a function. This is going to receive the dispatch. The dispatch function will be passed here, dispatch, and we're going to call the actual function that does the dispatch. So we're going to call the actual function, and we're going to pass as argument. We'll pass the dispatch plus any other arguments that we're going to need. Notice that the function is passing the ID right here, the widget ID, and it's also passing the new size. Right, so this would be the new size. And we just have to pass it along to the function so that it can actually do the dispatch. Right, so we'll pass in the widget ID and the new size. All right. All right. So we need to implement that function. So that function would be could live on the actions. Do we have the actions? Do we ever put actions in their own file? Do we do that? I forget. Okay, containers, constants, components. Okay, so we put actions here. So let's put the actions right there. So let's export this. So we'll say export. Oops, what's the name? Right, that's going to take as arguments a dispatch, the dispatch, the widget ID, and what else? The new size, right? The new size. And what this is going to do is just going to call a dispatch. So dispatch and pass the widget ID, an action, right? And the type will be heading, will be maybe heading size changed, right? And we're going to provide the widget ID. It's going to be widget ID. and the size will be new size. Okay. All right, so we need to declare this this heading size in as a constant here. It doesn't exist. So let's declare that in there. So it will be export const equal heading size. Very good. All right, so these are quite a few constants here. So what we could do is instead of having all these constants that are being imported like that, what we could do is we say star as constants. And then we can prepend all these so that we can use it as a namespace. So we don't have to list every one individually. Am I missing something here? Export, what are you complaining about here? Statement expected. Export, equal, dispatch, dispatch, type, ID, size. Am I missing something? Oh, thank you. Excellent. All right, so that's being dispatched. In the actions, why are you still complaining? Anything else I'm missing? Where? Constants dot add widget type. Where are you?
Line 17.
Oh, thank you. That and that. Okay. I hate computers. They're always right. They always do exactly what they're told. They never do what I mean them to do. Right? They just but that's. Well, actually, no. They're getting very close at figuring out what is it that we want. Implied. Anyway, excellent. So we're doing that. Now the reducer is waiting for that event to occur. So let's go back to the reducer and actually handle that new action. So this would be case heading change, right? And for now, let's just do an alert. Make sure that we're even getting here. Right, and for now, we're just going to return the state. We're not going to do any changes. Heading side change, we'll need to import that as well. We can make that change here as well. So that would be star as constants. I couldn't remember the syntax yesterday. So all these would be changed, right? What else? Here. Any other ones? Here. That's it, right? I guess we don't have this one apparently. Export const. All right, so let's see where we. All right, so it says heading size change not defined. Okay, so in widgets we're missing that. So in widgets or widget, we're missing these two. Probably because we declared it, but we never loaded the actions. Right. So this will be as actions from actions. And so this action is declared there. Where is it? This one, right? Actions dot heading. Still have one widget heading widget changed. Heading size widget changed. Line 11. Heading. Okay, so this one. So this is being provided as an argument here, right? So how does it get this? It gets it from this mapping, right? The mapping is what's going to bind this, right? This is when we pass this the dispatch properties here. right? That it'll say, oh, okay, I'm going to look at your properties, which has that name, so that maps to that, right? And I'm going to bind it to this function, right? With this function, I'm going to pass it. When you click on it, these two arguments are right here, are going to be passed into this actions heading size change, which in turn generates a dispatch. Okay. But I believe the first argument to connect is the state mapper, right? And the second argument is the dispatch mapper, right? So we don't have a state mapper, so I'm just going to say null for now, right? And the second one is the dispatch mapper. Line 11, widget is not defined. Line 11, widget is not defined. How is widget not defined? Are we providing it when we render it? Here's heading. Oh, I guess we never did. So widget. Let's provide widget as a property. And it's a property that's being fed into here, widget. All right, so we're back to where we want it to be. So if I am a heading and I change the size, it almost worked. So here's our on change, and it's complaining that something is complaining about heading size changed. I wonder what it's complaining about. Heading size change. So probably it's not being mapped for some reason. So did we say this correct? Dispatch heading size. Heading container. Oh, I think this should have been here, right? This should be heading container, right? Let's see, heading. All right, so that worked. Okay. Yeah, we're binding the wrong thing in the list editor. So we're getting to that reducer. What we need to do now is find that particular widget, right, and change its state, right, to be whatever value we want it to be, right? So to do that, let's do that in the reducer. Okay. So in the reducer here, what we're going to do is that we're going to generate a new state here. We're generate a brand new state whose widgets is going to be the same widgets as before. Okay. I'm going to take the original widgets, the state.widgets. I'm gonna run through it with a map, right? As I'm going to iterate over it. Right? When I find the widget that I want to modify, right, I'm going to modify its value. So I'm going to say, well, here's our particular widget, and what we're going to do with it is that if we find, right, that the particular widget's ID matches the action.id, right? We pass the ID as an argument, correct? If we find it, then what we're going to do is that widget's size, we're going to modify it to be the action size. Okay. And once we do that, then we can just return the widget. We can return the widget. We can return the widget. Right. Now this is probably going to run into the same problem we ran into yesterday. That as far as the reducer is concerned, the state hasn't changed, right? Because we have references. The reducer has references to all these objects, right? And it sees that it's the same exact references. There's no point on notifying anybody because the references haven't changed. So it must be the same. It must be the same object. Okay? So if the state changes, it should be notified back to the widget. Hopefully, we'll be notified back to the widget. How could we notify the widget? So somehow here we would like to be notified that the state has changed. Right. So for that, let's see. We're going to need some mapper here so that we can get the widget again. Right. We can get the widget back from where we got it from. Right. So we're going to need a mapper here, another mapper that's going to say we're going to map the state of the reducer to the properties. We're going to map them, right? And this is going to pass in the state. And what we're going to do is that we're going to grab the widget. We're going to grab it from the state widget. Actually, no, we don't have state widget. Do we have state widget? No, we don't. We're not changing the state. We're not changing the widget. Let's see. Actually, no. What's going to happen is what? It's when that state changes, what's going to happen? The whole list is going to re-render, right? The whole list. Where's the list? In widget list. The whole widget list is going to re-render, right? And it's going to pass the new widget here. It's going to pass the new widget with the new size. Right? So we should be able to just render the state here, right? We should just be able to render the state, the size. So let's try to render the size, widget.size. Ideally, hopefully, we'll just get it here magically. So let's see if that works. So we're rendering it where? Right here in heading and then the size, right? H2. Where's our H2? So it must be this one, no? No, I guess it's not that one. Heading 2. Where is this one here? Where is it? 1, 2, 3. Where's this being rendered? Where's that being rendered? I guess it's this one, right? No, it can't be because this just says H2 heading. Wait, where's this being rendered? Oh, okay, so it's that one. So that right there, right? Let's render the widget dot size. Oh, okay, look at that, right? So this says 1, 2, 3. But it's going there, but I can't change it. It doesn't actually change. So where's it getting that size? Where are you getting that size from? Is it in the database? Oh, look at that. The database already has sizes in there, right? But notice that my state is not changing locally, right? And I bet it's because of that reference part, right? So let's go back and change that a little bit in the reducer. Let's go back in the reducer and instead of just returning the widget, I'm going to force it to think that this is a brand new element, right? Brand new. I'm going to clone it, right? I'm going to copy. I'm going to do a deep copy on that widget alone. And to do that, there's a new API. We can do object.assign that copies onto an empty object any number of objects that you give it. Right? So it does a deep copy of whatever objects you have onto some other object that you give it. Right now it's just copying into an empty object. And it's populating it from widget. Okay. Okay, notice that it's changing, right? It changed. So, but it changed from where? It changed from the value of the option. And actually the values of the options are heading 2, heading 3, right? And that's changing. So, okay, so we got that far. So that's working. But let's remove that alert. That's an annoying alert. Let's change those options. Instead of taking the text in the option, we can actually give them real values. We can give them actual values. So the values, this could be 1, this could be 2, and this could be 3. Right? So now it will take whatever the value of the option is, not the text. Right? So let's refresh, and if I change this to 2 to 3, notice that it works. Okay, see that? So that seems to work. And what we'd like to be able to do is, depending on the size of the widget, we would like to render different sizes of widgets. So let's play around with that next.